Old school FPS games. Do they still have a chance to live in this time of age? It's definitely true when people say single-player driven FPS games have been going on a decline. The gameplay pretty much shows it in a lot of modern games like scripted events, slower gameplay design or linear map design. So in this video, I'm mostly just going to focus on the single player games, not much on multiplayer. Maybe I'll talk about that someday, but just on the single player aspect. So you guys know about me, I'm definitely a fan of the old school shooters, and what I mean by old school shooters, I'm talking about the PC driven shooters like Doom, Quake, Rise of the Triad, and a lot more. Basically any shooter that was pretty much a Doom clone, because those type of games were the most dominant ones for their time. So yeah, I'm definitely a fan, and I totally believe there's still a lot of room for these type of shooters to be made. I'm happy to see a lot of the upcoming shooters are trying to pay homage to the older games in a more better way. Like, it seems the secrets are starting to become more of a standard now. Like, Rise of the Triad was released and it had secrets, and we still got Wolfenstein the New Order and the new Shadow Warrior game, and that is just great. I've always loved secrets. It's really a fun thing to look for, and it's true that it's kind of sad that most modern games abandoned it, but I do feel like shooters should still keep it. I don't agree that every FPS game needs it. As long there's some sort of exploration, then it's fine, but I'm just saying it's nice that these things should be more common for future shooters. It's totally nice that these games are fast paced and they pump you up. Like, it feels good to have a lot of flexibility in your movement, or it's a game that really focuses you on the more twitch reflexes than playing defensively. I mean, you still have those moments in old school FPS games where you have to, be more cautious, but it's primarily a more faster paced experience compared to Call of Duty on the hardest difficulty, and it's really, a much better way to play a game when it's faster paced and have you get into the action right away instead of being cautious while being into action. I am a huge supporter for, these type of games, and I do believe there is still a lot of room for more, but then again, are the modern old school FPS games are really trying to compete against their elders, or is it just they're competing the modern games? To my eyes, they seem to be competing the modern games, which is something I feel like developers shouldn't 100% focus on. The thing is, a lot of these shooters, they still hold up so well in this day and age. You just gotta get used to the graphics pretty much if you want to play games like Doom. But then again, there are a lot of source ports for these games. Like, Doom has a ton of them, and the same thing for Quake. Source ports basically make it more modern. Like, you can play Doom with the mouse look, or play Quake with HD graphics. And a lot of these games have, such high recognition of being masterpieces or classics. Do you really think, games like Serious Sam 3 or Hard Reset can really compete to these gems? I grew up with these type of shooters, and I find it so hard for me to really, touch other shooters, because they really give me no striking reason to play it other than, for nostalgic value. That's the problem I have a lot with these old school, shooters in modern times. I personally felt this way once Quake 2 was released, and a lot of the Doom-like FPS games like Shadow Warrior or Blood, I just didn't see any real reason to play them, and I think at that time people were just, getting tired of those shooters, and that's why I believe Half-Life was so revolutionary at that time, because it was really a breath of fresh air. Don't get me wrong, people, I would love to have a brand new IP from whatever developer, and it's, a new game, but it's old school like Doom, but it also has its own reasons to be played, whether you are a modern FPS fan or old school FPS fan. I would love to play something like that, because a lot of these old school FPS games in today's age, I just don't really see any real reason to play it, just like I said last time. With that said, I do believe there is still room for these games, and I don't think it's going to... I mean, these games are going, to sell well like Halo or Bioshock, but I do feel like there is that audience who would love to give these games a try, and I'm one of them, but unfortunately I'm going to have to, wait for a while. However, if I look outside of my perspective, I'm happy that there seems to be a movement to help this genre regain its popularity, because games like Rise of the Triad, Shadow Warrior, or Rack seems to be, a part of that movement. And what that means is I feel like there will be more IPs that might be the game for me. Right now, a lot of them don't really seem to appeal to me. Maybe if you count the new Wolfenstein game, but it's really more like a modern game with old school elements. Still though, it's really nice to see people are starting to realize that old school FPS games mechanics are still worthy to use and should not be forgotten.